Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success talk show. My name is Rochelle, Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. Now, I advise and empower first-time business owners, first-time entrepreneurs, first-time political candidates to step up into their most authentic personal brand. All right? Because when you do these types of things that I share, as far as image consultant, personal branding, you get all of the things that you desire and you deserve because it's on your own terms and it is in your most authentic way. And nowadays, we need more authenticity than ever. So I bring it all to you. We start with the word slay. As you know, if you look it up in the Urban Dictionary, it means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym that stands for Universal Life and Leadership Philosophies that really resonate with me the most, and hopefully it resonates with you too. And that is stay ready, be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community, and knowing you are built to last. So as you come in on the show, please let us know your name and where you're streaming in from, because we just want to give you a shout out. All right. You could be in a million one places. I know it's football season and football is on, but you can have us in the background or maybe have the football in the background and have us on your TV. Okay. But you said you wanted to be here because, listen, I search high and I search low. And sometimes I have people in my community that need to be elevated and amplified. And tonight I have a special guest. As you know, all my guests that come on here are just absolutely phenomenal. Okay. They are people that have been doing extraordinary things. And so tonight, y'all, I have a special guest. And as you're coming in, hey, Leslie, how you doing tonight? Good evening, madam. Welcome to the Slay to Success talk show. We've got Beth in the building. Hey, Beth. See, Leslie and Beth have both been on the show. I appreciate you too because you were guests and now you're showing up for others. And so I absolutely love that for us. This is the community to be in. So thank you so much for being with us live and just tuning in. And so, as we were moving through the week, if you will, I want us just to take some time to really think about what we're doing and how we're doing it. It's all about making an impact and an influence in this world because nowadays, what's happening is people are shrinking and playing small and not stepping up. And so, as a means to do that, we invite guests to come in, share their story, share their words of inspiration, and share even things that may be challenging so that way we can get better as a community. So, tonight, y'all, I have a special guest, and her name is Norma Ely-Jones. And she is an author of 2 books. She has a book titled Bye Bye Deployment, Hello Enjoyment. You see that, how that rhymes, y'all? I love it. And Scania Bound. She is a retired Army Logistics Colonel, a Bronze Star and Legion of Merit veteran. She retired from the Federal Aviation Administration Air Traffic Manager. As an air traffic manager, she's a military spouse, and she is a PTSD survivor who has turned her personal journey into a mission of empowerment. And after years of leading soldiers and overseeing critical operations, she realized her true purpose was guiding others through transformation. Her own path to PTSD recovery showed her that healing is just not about surviving, it's about thriving and embracing new possibility. And today, her passion is to help military spouses and veterans find clarity, peace, and purpose as they transition into the next season of their lives, reminding them that they don't have to walk the path alone. She is the CEO and founder of Next Season. All right, so let me just bring her on stage and let you all just see her, meet her, know her. First of all, Norma, thank you so much for being a guest on this show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And secondly, Thank you for your service.
You're quite welcome, and thank you for your service.
Yes, Queen. Listen, now when we get two veterans up in here,
Yes.
we about to have a this show is gonna be rocking. Okay, so y'all just buckle up because when we get together, we just have to share some things that we have experienced from our perspective, and hopefully we could connect the dots for you all to understand for those who have not served, because we definitely want to be able to connect to you as well. So Norma, just tell the people, if you will, a little bit about yourself.
Well, in your introduction, that covered a great deal. The Cowboys are playing today, and I said I had the Air Force, blue and white on, but I also have the Cowboy blue on as well.
Listen, she's showing up, okay?
So I retired. I served 38 years as air traffic controller, working for the Federal Aviation Administration, while also serving in the United States Army Reserves for 31 years as Army Logistics Officer. And I did both careers, well, out of love. The Lord has blessed me, in so many ways. And so I've served the country. I served, federal government. And in my retirement, I started Next Season Inc. To start bidding on government contracts as a consultant in air traffic, aviation, training, logistics, management, and also as a certified life coach. And so I'm hoping to, as a certified life coach, provide life coaching to our military service members' families, because as military service members, we are afforded counseling and psychiatry, but our family members are not. And so, as a certified life coach, that's what I'm aiming to do. And also, I'm using my first book, Bye Bye Deployment, Hello Enjoyment, as a platform to help those service members' families. So it'll be, my plan is everything will be virtual, online, and like an affordable price, to our military service members' families, something that they could afford, in hopes that eventually the VA will see it and then, want to contract me and then provide that service to them free. Wow. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Listen, okay, first of all, y'all, don't play with Norma, okay? Because she's about her business. And Leslie even says, I love the name of your company, Next Season. Yes. I do too, Leslie. Like, I already told her that. I was like, oh, okay. I just know, this is most fitting for you, the way that you have the vision. You already know what you want to do with it. You already know who you want to serve. You already know what modality that you want to serve in. And, these are things in business. Sometimes it's kind of hard to get to, because, we're trying to serve everybody, and we think that, we can. And so you figure that out. And so, as you said, you were, of service for 31 years in Army Reserve, and then 38 years in the Federal Aviation Administration, which is mind-boggling to me. So your journey, tell us a little bit about the journey. I mean, you got these two jobs, if you will, two roles. Yeah. How did that all come together?
Well, it all came together. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. And so I went to college down in Florida, Miami, Florida. I am an alumni of Florida Memorial University, one of the only historically Black colleges in Southern Florida. Wow. And Florida Memorial had an aviation program. So I was one of the first two students that graduated from Florida Memorial University's aviation program. And so the Ronald Reagan, back in 1982, fired a lot of the air traffic controllers. So the National Black Coalition of Federal Aviation Employees came to Florida Memorial University in order to recruit, college students, to become air traffic controllers. Because as an air traffic controller, you're not allowed to strike. So a lot of those air traffic controllers back in the day, they went on strike and they were fired. So me being a starving college student, they came up and they put up posters, signs, meet us in the cafeteria if you want an internship, with the FAA, as air traffic controller. And I was like, sign me up, because I was a starving college student. So I went and I interned with them. And so every other semester, they paid me a salary, which I so desperately needed. And so upon graduation, I was guaranteed, a job working for the Federal Aviation Administration as air traffic controller upon passing the academy out in Oklahoma. So I passed the academy. Yes, I passed the academy and started working in Florida as air traffic controller at Opelika. Okay. And then and went on. And so air traffic control. So I was also able to stay in the Army Reserves, at the same time, and so, which is fantastic. And so during both of these jobs at the same time, like having two different hats, as air traffic controller, aviation, and then in the Army Reserves logistics, which it started out as quartermaster, which eventually turned into logistics, which was, the ordnance, the transportation, and the quartermaster. And so it was amazing because I love both of my occupations that I did. So in 2003, I deployed to Iraq and voluntarily transferred to a unit down in Fort Lee. And so I went, served in Iraq with a total different unit, that I, was assigned to. So for 18 months, I served in Iraq. And I was promoted in Iraq as a lieutenant colonel and also made a battalion commander in Iraq. And
wow.
So, yes, I was given soldiers, from different units that made up my unit in Iraq, and served. And we did a mission, and we served very well. And for 18 months, after I left Iraq and came back, I was homeless because I had rented out my townhouse in Warrenton, Virginia, because I was single prior to deploying to Iraq. And I had no one to, take care of my items other than just friends I knew in the Maryland area. I had to sell my car, rented out my townhouse. And so when I returned 18 months later, my townhouse was still rented out. So my battle buddy, who I served with, I went to one of my girlfriend's house to stay at her condo. And her room was very small in her condo, and she had this air mattress for me, to sleep on. So my battle buddy, he helped me to bring my duffel bags and everything to my girlfriend's house and put it in the room. He saw where I was going to be sleeping at. He's like, ma'am, I can't leave you here to be sleeping on this, air mattress, after serving 18 months. And so he's like, look, I have a 3-bedroom house, a 2-car garage, because I had bought a car, while I was over there serving, for the military car buying service. And my girlfriend had told me, like, okay, when your car's delivered, you're not going to be able to park it here. Just like she lived in a condo. Okay. And so he said, I have a 2-car garage. And so you can come over, and stay with me. And so I was like, hey, sounds great. And oh, by the way, my job that I had as air traffic controller when I returned from Iraq, I had a lot of medical issues going on, and I was on a lot of medications. So as an air traffic controller, you can't take a lot of medications, prescribed medications. So I was reassigned to headquarters in Washington, D.C. And just so happened, my battle buddy, he was working, for the White House. And so he's like, hey, I'll be able to, drop you off on your way to work, which is great because he had parking privileges and I didn't have any parking privileges. I didn't have a car. So it was right up my alley. And so I lived with him for, 3 years. And then I went.
Wow.
Not 3 years, 3 months.
Oh, I was going to say that's a long time.
Correction. 3 months. 3 months. I went out and I bought another house. Like I said, because my house was, still rented out in Warrenton, Virginia. And so 3 months living, with my battle buddy. and then I moved into my own house. And so while I'm living in my own house, he proposes to me. He, he wants, getting married. And so within, I would say, 5 months, 6 months, we were married. October the 29th of October, we will be serving 20 years, married, our 20-year reunion.
What?
Yes. Yes. And so, however, during this 20 years, him and I both suffer from post-traumatic stress. I found out, that my husband had been to 4 deployments, 4 conflicts prior to me knowing him, and prior to him deploying, to Iraq with me for those 18 months. So he had never received any type of treatment. He didn't know he had post-traumatic stress. He probably had it really bad, probably from the first 4. Okay, so Iraq 18 months, and so during this time, we were both suffering from post-traumatic stress, and we weren't receiving treatment. We started receiving treatment, I guess, up maybe 10 years when the VA finally started recognizing post-traumatic stress and telling soldiers, look, we are now, providing that service, to our service members. So we started getting treatment and realizing, what we were going through, like I said, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So, retiring, I wound up during this time writing, another book called Scania Bound. Scania is the location in Iraq. I operate at Convoy Support Center in the middle of Iraq. So all the soldiers that deployed in and out of Iraq stopped in Scania. So that mission belonged to me. And so for 18 months, I took care of the soldiers, that came in and out of, it was like a glorified truck stop. Okay. And in the middle of nowhere. However, it's like, the threat was real, because at nighttime we walked around in total darkness. Okay. Because
no.
the lights off so the enemy could not pinpoint our location. So we just had to walk around in total darkness. So returning back, okay, getting married to my battle buddy. He had an 8-year-old. Our daughter's name is Bria. She's beautiful. She's 28 now.
Okay.
and she lives in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that's the only child we have. I don't have any biological kids of my own.
Yeah.
I was too busy, serving our country, and working as an air traffic controller, both jobs which I just loved so much. And so my husband and I, once we retired, I wanted to have a home on the water and just look at the view of the water in my retirement.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was asking too much. And so we started, looking for a waterfront property, which we found one down in Eagle Harbor. Okay, it's the Eagle Harbor community located in Aquasco, Maryland. It was the first Black retreat resort for Black people back in the day when Marion Barry was mayor. And I guess a lot of the Black people in the DC, Maryland area, they didn't have any place to party. I mean, I don't know. I just was told that was the first Black retreat resort for Black people. Okay, and they went down there and had fish fries and crab feasts, because it's right off the Patuxent River. Okay, the well-kept secret, because I didn't even know it was down there. You take Brandywine Road all the way down.
Listen, I've passed by that area all the time, and it is. Listen, y'all, if you ever come to the DMV, just drive by it, and just even seeing it from the road is absolutely incredible. I'm like, who lives in there? It's beautiful. Before we go on to that, we do have a couple of comments here.
Okay.
So Glenn Roy, who is here. Hey, Glenn Roy, thank you so much for being here live with us tonight. He said, I don't know how many folks know how rare it is to have a Black female air traffic controller. That is amazing, Colonel. And hashtag salute. Yes, it is. Okay. So like your whole career, your professionalism, and then your service, like you being in that type of scenario for 18 months, it's just, I can't wrap my head around it. Even though we were of service,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the different branches do different times of deployments, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that yours were longer than ours, but being in those types of conditions and then coming back, like, first of all, you came back. Like,
Hallelujah.
that right there in itself is like, hallelujah, praise God, you
Yes.
know, that you're
Hallelujah.
back.
Yes.
So, you know, people don't really understand the, I would say, the magnitude of the responsibilities that you had, you
Yes.
know, because you had soldiers that you were overseeing and were responsible for.
Yes.
And, you know, like anyone, we want to make sure that we are taking care of these soldiers and they do come back, you know, as well. So it was during the time where it was just, we were in full blown war. It was
Yes.
just full blown war. My husband went twice, you know, so he too, you know, suffers from PTSD. And so it's just a lot of things that, you know, having to deal with. But, you know, he's like hashtag salute. I'm like hashtag salute to 100th degree. Okay. And
Yes.
then he said, that's what you call a battle buddy. Okay. He was with you through your battle and decided to make you his buddy for life. That's what's up.
Yeah. Well, he was single and I was single, and just so happened it's like, I guess the military, they pair, males and females together to work together. Okay. You don't think about it. Okay. And just so happened, we had a job to do. Okay. We had a mission to do, and we did it, and we did it very well. And based on, being there for 18 months, okay, I just know that, you start bonding with people,
Yeah.
and when I was over in Iraq for 18 months, he helped to keep me safe. Okay. Because
Mhm.
at Scania on our compound, we had a lot of, you know, um, service members that were, moving through, staying overnight on the base, you know, traveling through, and also the Sec 4 Force Protection guys from California, that was stationed there to provide security for us. It was two lieutenant colonels there, and so the lieutenant colonel, he wanted my job. Okay. Like,
Mm.
look, this mission is mine. Okay. The logistics mission is mine. The gas, everything, the tents, the lodging, they belong to me. And I am providing this service to you and your soldiers. Okay. And so we had to, like, agree. And my battle buddy, had to actually come into my office. I had to put him in my office, like right up in front, to keep, those combat arms guys from coming in there trying to, rough me up. Because, me being a Black female, they thought that, I was a pushover. But I had to let them know, like, look, you got the wrong one. Okay. You're not going to be taking my mission. I have a mission to do, a job to do. Okay. To take care of you and your soldiers, as well as all these other soldiers here. And I'm going to do my job. Okay. And so we had to, the 13th COSCOM, okay, the general there had to send a '06 down there, okay, which is really sad, had to bring an '06 there in
Tell
order.
the audience what the '06 is so they know.
'06 is a full bird colonel. It's the colonel that has, the eagle, okay. So that full bird colonel had to come there as the commander, because you had two lieutenant colonels, '05s. I was one of them, and the logistics mission was mine. And then you had the force protection security colonel, lieutenant colonel, that was there, and that was his job. But he wanted to try and take
Your
over.
job. That's
Yeah.
what they do.
So, they were threatening me. Like, for instance, we lived in tents, okay, and we also had porta johns, porta potties, and so a lot of the times I would go into a porta john, and all kinds of obscenity would have been written on inside, like, "Oh, we're going to kill her, we hate her, this and that, or whatever," right? So I was feeling threatened, even though I was there, doing my job, a mission, taking care of our soldiers. And so my battle buddy, he had to, be there to protect me from our own soldiers, which is
That
really sad.
it is sad. And you know what? And it is real. It's a
Mhm.
real thing.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes people, again, not understanding, like women in the military,
Mhm.
we are there just as much as the men are in
Yes.
the uniform to do our job. And
Mhm.
we don't want to be dealing with all this other stuff. But
No.
unfortunately, we have to figure out how to navigate in those types of scenarios.
Yeah,
So
and I did because the Lord provided me. He prepared me for that. Okay,
yeah,
because as
yeah.
an air traffic controller, as an air traffic controller, I control the flying public, and so therefore, I felt like if I had probably a different job, or if I wasn't who I was, and those soldiers attacked someone else other than me, a black female, they may not have been prepared for it, or may not been able to handle it. But the Lord prepared me, as the air traffic controller. Okay, and then also as an Army officer, he prepared me for that. I deployed as a major and I got promoted, in combat to a
Hmm.
lieutenant colonel.
That's
Okay,
all right.
and made a battalion commander in combat.
That's all
So
right.
and so um, so Scania Bound is pretty much a lot of the experiences that I dealt with, while I was in Scania. However, Scania is a fictional, non-fictional book, so you got to figure out
Mm.
what's true and what's not true. Okay,
Oh,
some stuff in here is made up, and then some stuff is not made up,
you
and
know what? Listen, you on that game, because you know what? I
so
went to a webinar or a course or something, and they were talking about, one of the things that's really popular is like mixing nonfiction and fiction together, because, you give somebody, like, like a way to imagine some things, right? And it's, like kind of wandering instead of reading something that's so nonfiction, or an autobiography where, so like you on that game, Norma. So I don't know how you got that, but that's a really good way to get your readers to read the entire thing. First of all, okay.
and,
And
and,
Beth
and,
says,
and
go
what
ahead,
was
go ahead,
I'm sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh,
Go.
and so what was so exciting also when I got back, and I was asked to go to work at Andrews Air Traffic Control Tower. And because the air traffic manager that was there couldn't come back to work because his wife worked there and she put a restraining order on him. And so he could not come back to work. So they needed somebody to go to Andrews. But just so happened a helicopter crashed on Final. And so this was like really big and in the news. So when they were asking people to go, a lot of people were like, no, I don't want to go
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
with me, I love a challenge. I love as an Army officer, as a person, I was like, look, I love a challenge. Give me something that no one else wants to do, okay? Or let me fix it, because that's what I do well. And so I was like, look, I'll go, yeah. And they sent me over there to Andrews as air traffic manager, right when the time when President Obama was elected into office. So this is like 2008. So I got a chance to be the first Black air traffic manager at Andrews Air Traffic Control Tower, the home of Air Force One and Two, and then was able to to greet President Obama, first Black president, flying into Andrews. So
That's
it was
right.
just so exciting. It was just so wonderful. That was a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that, man. I mean, that warms my heart so
Yeah.
much, because, we do take on challenges, and sometimes people like turn away and they don't think that, they can measure up to it, but we're always up for it. And
Uh-huh.
I know, like, your service was honorable, it was distinguished, it is inspiring. It's all the things that we all can see and hear about. And I do want us to really talk through what you were getting ready to share.
Okay.
So, like I was saying, y'all, like if you come to the DMV and you come to this particular residential community, you will see there is an air about it. But sometimes that could be in disguise, right?
Yeah.
So, Norma, like, tell us what's going on with
Well,
this residential area and all the things.
after serving 2 careers, I retired, my husband and and so our realtor, I think my husband and we were in Ghana or traveling somewhere, and he sent me this picture of this house that was on the Patuxent River down in Eagle Harbor, and for sale. And I'm like, oh, I was excited, like, okay. So when we came back and we went to see it, the house was built back in 1928, had not been occupied in 15 years. So, it was overpriced, like $560,000. However, it was on the Patuxent River, and our plan was to tear it down and to, replace it with a prefab house. So I felt like, the $560,000, for that property, for the land, the fact that we were going to, like I said, tear down the house and put a prefab house, that's what my plan was. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my vision. And
Right.
so we had a realtor, and the realtor, was there. The broker, New American Funding loan officer broker told us, like, hey, okay, because we asked for a VA home loan. I've had 2 VA home loans. Okay. My husband probably has had 2 on his own separate. So, we're familiar with the VA home loan process. And however, so going through this, the VA appraiser came and appraised the property. The loan officer said, look, you guys have to fix it up, or correction, you have to tear it down in order to put your prefab house here. So you need some contractors to go out and get, 3 contracts, and bids. And that way we can submit them to the VA, and that's what we did. So it was the VA appraiser appraised the house. Like I said, had not been occupied in 15 years, was on a septic system and a well. My husband and I weren't familiar with septic systems or wells. Okay. However, our realtor was, because he grew up in Eagle Harbor, because his uncle, lived like right in front of our house. So he was very familiar with the septic, tanks. A lot of the houses down at Eagle Harbor community, they're on septics and they have wells. They don't have public utilities down there. Okay. And so, we got a contractor and we're ready. And according to, everything's going as planned, and everything should be done by August. We should have moved into our house by August of 2024. Okay. So we run into our contractor, the engineer. He asked the question, where's the septic tank at? And my husband and I and the realtor, like, okay, where's the septic tank at? So we asked the owner, and the owner's like, 10 paces down behind the house and to the left. He didn't know where the septic tank was. Okay, so 15 years he sat on the property. He never occupied. He didn't live in it. Okay, Prince George's County, there's no requirement for the sellers to display, or produce septic systems like evaluations or inspections, or the fact that the septic tank works. Prince George's County doesn't have that. Other counties in Maryland, they do have that to protect the buyer. So it's now June. Okay, we bought the house back in November of 2023, and our engineer is like, "Where's the septic?" The septic tank didn't work. It was faulty. It was metal. It had a big old hole in it. There was sewage and everything under the house. We had an inspection, but the inspector, the mirror inspector said, well, I couldn't inspect the septic because the electric wasn't on. Okay. And so the seller wouldn't turn the electric on because he said he didn't want the house to catch on fire or flood. So he knew that the septic tank wasn't working. Okay. And so Prince George's Health Department and Maryland Health Department came out, and they pretty much restricted us from doing any work. until a percolation test was passed, conducted through wet season. Okay, wet season in Maryland is from February through April. So keep in mind, we bought the house in November of 2023. So we missed the wet season. Our contractor missed the wet season. And it may have been because the contractor that we had, right after New American Funding gave them $122,000 of our money, the first draw, for them to start, with their building permits and demolition. They take the money and go to Africa on a trip. So they told us, I'm speculating that's what they did with the money.
No, I was going to say, that. You see my mouth. I'm like, what? They went where?
They went on the trip because I'm like, wait a minute. We done gave you the first week. We requested the first draw for you guys, and you can go on a trip. Okay, so they went on the trip, and so in the meantime, we're like waiting, and New American Funding, they're the ones that had the money, renovation money. And we're, telling them like, hey, our contractors, I don't see where they drew any permits or anything, right? Yeah. So New American Funding is asking them like 4 different times, like, okay, what's your status? What's going on? Okay. And they're telling New American Funding, oh, we're waiting on soil samples. Okay. And things like that. Long story short, I told you that the VA appraiser came and appraised the house for $1.2 million. They appraised this house that had been sitting, dilapidated. I call it an uninhabitable lemon. Okay, no one had lived in the house for 15 years. The VA appraiser appraised it for $1.2 million. We're paying 7.2% because the interest rate was, up there kind of high, 7.2%. So we're paying $8,000 a month for an uninhabitable lemon property that we can't even live in. Okay, because the septic tank is not working, so we can't even live in it. And oh, by the way, because it needs to be renovated before we can live in it anyway. And so New American Funding, our mortgage company, were like, hey, this is going on. The health department, Maryland Health Department, Prince George's Health Department has shut us down. We have to wait until wet season, which is going to be in 2025, February through April. February and April came and went of 2025. It didn't pass. So in the meantime, we're still paying $8,000 a month for an uninhabitable lemon property that we can't live in. So we keep asking New American Funding, could you guys please take the renovation portion of the loan off of our loan? Yeah. That way we can just pay the $560,000 mortgage, right? And not be paying on the renovation portion. And they said, no. Our investors don't want to do that, nor do our investors want to lower your interest rate down to 6% as advertised on our website. Because New American Funding, I didn't know it until after the fact that they had on their website a military appreciation site that they gave military, service members 6%, instead of 7.2%. Yeah. And so why did we not get that? Okay. So to this day, the percolation test has not passed. So the health department is saying, wait until next February, April of 2026. And we're like, no, okay, this, we're all into our retirement money, trying to pay $8,000 a month for an uninhabitable lemon property. And then, oh, by the way, the house that we living in right now, in Fort Washington, Maryland, we were supposed to sell that in order to offset the cost, okay, of that $1.2 million property. Okay, so really we would have only been paying like $500,000 instead of the 1.2 million. Except for we can't sell it because we have to have someplace to live. And so I was reaching out to the VA, the secretary of the VA. I was reaching out to senators, congressmen, county executors, you name it. OIG, everybody, like, please help. We got attorneys that pretty much just took our money, $10,000 retainers, and then we turn around, in a couple of months, the $10,000 retainer is gone, and the attorneys haven't done anything for us. Okay, that was one of many attorneys that have taken our money and provided us no assistance. Mm-hmm. Just recently, a couple of months ago, New American Funding decides now, like, okay, we will take the $522,000 off of your mortgage, okay, minus the $122,000 that we gave to your contractor that ran off, that didn't do nothing, but you're liable for that $122,000. Oh, by the way, but we'll take that off, and you'll just be paying on $600,000, for this uninhabitable lemon house that you can't live in. But you have to agree that you won't sue us. You have to sign this document to say you won't sue us. And so at this point, my husband that has been to 5 campaigns, okay, that suffers from severe post-traumatic stress, he's freaking out. Okay. I'm freaking out because, our money, $8,000 a month, is going down the drain. And we don't have no place. We can't live in this property. The only thing he can do is go in there and cut the grass. And he's freaking out. He's like, Norma, I did not work all my life to be in retirement, okay, at 64 years old, and paying all my money to a uninhabitable property that I can't live in. And so, like I said, he's freaking out. And I'm trying to keep him calm and maintain my sanity and try to fix this. I was trying to fix it because I thought it was my fault, because I just wanted that view of that Patuxent River in my retirement. And I didn't think that was asking, for too much. I didn't think that was asking for too much. But, but we were misrepresented. Okay. And we're told we don't have a VA home loan. We have some other type of loan, but it's not a VA home loan, except for, all my documents have a VA number on it.
Yeah.
The VA appraiser came out and appraised this property, for $1.2 million. I'm thinking, why are you telling me I don't have a VA home loan? Why would you send a VA appraiser out to appraise a property that's not a VA home loan property? And then the government, the government documents, okay, shows that our loan that we have is a VA home loan. So there's no oversight. We can't get any help. We're out of money, because we're like, my husband's like, look, I'm not going to pay anymore on this, because it's like, and so we put the house on for a short sale. We put it on the market, put it back on the market, because we can't do anything with it. Yeah. Because the health department says we couldn't do anything with it until it passed the percolation test during wet season. And so I'm glad, that I have this opportunity to get our story out there, because we are in desperate need of help, because we can't find anybody to help us. And I'm not for sure why this is happening to us, other than the fact that, we both suffer from post-traumatic stress, and maybe that's it, but, we need some help.
Yeah. Listen, I don't even know where to start, really. First, I want to say I'm sorry that you are all going through this, because this is not the way that this was supposed to be designed, especially after serving our country the way that you have. Your husband has served. And, these are the things that aren't talked through enough.
No.
If we have served and put the uniform on and volunteered and have done it extremely well with ultimate excellence, all right? And then yet and still, here is yet another thing that is looming. So anyone in the community, right? Norma is here on this platform to share her story in the hopes that someone knows someone or knows something that she can find a way through this. Because I don't know anything about the home loans, the VA process, or anything, the ins and outs of that, but I know our community does. I know our community does. So, someone, I know Norma is listening, someone is asking and probably sending texts right now to somebody that they know in order for you and your husband to get this resolved. Because you do need a place where you can rest in peace and look out wherever window you want to look at and see whatever view you want to see. Okay. So, I know that sometimes these challenges that we go through, they are hard. They are, like emotionally draining, exhausting.
Yes.
To a point where you're just like, there is no way out. but I know of your resilience. I know of your courage. I know of your tenacity, your determination. Um, these things are going to, get some attention. And I'll just say that the attention that it rightly deserves. And Beth says, my heart breaks for you and your husband. No one deserves to go through this.
No,
No
it's
one.
horrible. It is horrible. It's been a nightmare for almost 2 years now. Okay. And it's been an ongoing nightmare, and it's horrible. And, because, post-traumatic stress, other medical issues, it's like, I survived, open heart surgery, double bypass. Okay. 10 years ago. So I don't need this additional stress. Okay. On my heart. I really don't. And it's just horrible, because I'm like, how is this happening? I am a senior, military officer, retired. So if this is happening to me, imagine some little private out there, if something like that is going to happen to them and they have nowhere to turn, no one's helping them. Believe me, I try. I know, and knocking on doors and screaming and asking for help. I mean, I've been doing everything within my power to do it. But our little private out there, they wouldn't know to do that. They wouldn't know.
They would just take it. Because you know why? Because they don't have the resources.
Right.
They don't have the, audience. They don't have the connections.
Right.
To make things happen.
I mean, because I've gone to, where I knew that the secretary of the VA was going to be at, okay, to try and get my story out there. And he would tell, his people, help her and her husband. But then no one helped. I would not hear, I didn't hear from anybody from the VA except for one guy that called me on the phone and pretty much was saying, well, you guys should have known better. Okay. I don't think I don't need someone to come and beat me up and make me feel worse than I feel. I don't need nobody to discipline me. I need some help. And saying, well, you guys have the worst loan that, that the VA offers, but, they're telling me that the VA it's not a VA loan. And I'm like, please come straight. Who can I contact? Do I need to contact the FBI, CIA? I don't know. I'm serious.
Right. Right.
No, this is serious. So New American Funding Mortgage Company, they're holding us hostage. Okay. Which is horrible. So it's like, I didn't serve 2 jobs, 2 careers to be in retirement going through foreclosure. I didn't do that. And I feel like it's not my fault, because not all of my fault, other than falling in love with the view of the Patuxent River, so I'm liable for that.
Yeah.
But the other part, the realtor not telling me to have a feasibility study or percolation test before we bought it, not putting that in an addendum, saying, okay, this sale is contingent upon it passing percolation. And the seller, he knew, and that's why he sat on it for 15 years, and he was using it for collateral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I have to, I have this a legal shield attorney, because it's like, I don't have any money, no more money. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I have this legal shield attorney that's doing her best, trying to help us. Okay. So we have to sue the realtor. Okay. We have to sue the seller. We got to sue the contractor that has our $122,000 that don't want to give it back. But we has more than that, because, we had ordered, a 2-car garage, joining 2-car garage with living space on top of it for other lots, because we had like 5 lots down there. And we gave them, like a total of $209,000. Like, you had to put money down in order to order these prefab, buildings. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So even though nothing was ordered, even though we can't, they never requested permits. Okay. So I know they didn't order anything. Okay. And so, but they don't want to give us our money back, since we can't do anything with the property. They don't want to give us our money back. So, I have to sue all these people. And so that's why I say it's like a never ending nightmare. I just want it to end. Okay. Because, I'm just like stressed out, and I can't, sleep, and my husband's not sleeping, and it's impacting us, and it's just not good.
Yeah. Well, somebody's going to help. Okay. because I see this already happening for you. Glenroy said you served on a deployment that was basically darkness for 18 months. You can get through this. God won't bring you to what he won't bring you through.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
So,
and I'm waiting on him. I'm waiting on the Lord. And that's all. It's like, I'm waiting on the Lord. I mean, I know he's going to come. I know he's going to come. And right here, Rochelle, this is the beginning. Because everybody that I've talked to, the lawyers and everybody else, like, you need to get your story out there. The county executor office, I just called Mrs. Boy's office, and the young lady answered the phone. I'm telling her it is a lot. A lot of people, when I tell them the story, they're like, oh, that's a lot. She's like, you need to get your story out there. Okay. I'm like, well, what are you going to do to help me?
Exactly.
Okay? Like, I've contacted Channel 4 News. I contacted, Channel 7 and other news out there. They have my story, but they have to choose what story is best for them, to report on. And so thank you, Rochelle, for allowing me this opportunity to get this story out there in hopes that somebody will see it and know how to help me and my husband. Because we desperately need help.
This is the least that I could do. Okay, this is the least that I could do. I feel like you said, it's a lot, but at the end of the day, when we kind of look at past history, you got a retired colonel, Bronze Star, Legion of Merit, who has done the work and has done the service, and yet and still we're dealing with the VA. So the VA is a Veterans Affairs home loan process, y'all. Okay, so this is the institution by which we get our medical, our loans, our educational benefits, you name it, it's all of that through this system. But to hear that someone who has served and the system is not helpful in this situation, and no calls, no one's talking to you, no one's assigned, usually they assign a case manager, somebody who helps you along with the process of what to do next. This needs to get resolved, y'all, and it needs to get resolved today. All right. Now I'm putting on today, like we're going to do some stuff for during the day, but I'm just saying, I would love to see resolution for you to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yes, I would too, because, just so happened right after, we closed on the house and everything, the broker, the loan officer, he stopped working for New American Funding. And also the young lady that gave our contractor the $122,000, she stopped working for New American Funding. Yeah. And so here we were trying to find some help, and we couldn't find nobody, because they're like, hey, the loan officer, he doesn't work anymore. I'm like, well, okay, who's replacing him? And then the person that gave the money away does not working there anymore. And so each time I would call the Roanoke office of the VA Home Evaluations Office, there was a gentleman there, he would hang up on me. He was the one that was answering my complaint, because I would put some complaint in. Believe me, believe me, OIG office, whoever, VA, OIG, the complaints are there, lots of them. I probably complained over 100 times. And that same person, okay, Sean Cannon, he's the person that responded and said, if you have a medical issue, if you're stressed out, you're stressed out and you're having issues, with your heart or whatever, go to the VA emergency room and get treatment, or seek legal guidance. That's what he would tell me. I'm thinking, like, wait a minute, I need more help than that. I've done that. I've been to the emergency room probably over these last 8 months. I've probably been in the emergency room probably at least 3 or 4 times. And my husband probably more times than that, because of this situation stressing us out, to the point where it's like anxiety. And this is for real. And I wouldn't wish this on anybody. And I'm glad that I'm the person that's going through it, because the Lord won't put on me more than I can bear. And he I can handle it. And that's why, he's taking me through it, and I'm learning from it. Okay. Because I'm stronger. That which doesn't kill me is making me stronger, and I'm learning from it. I'm a much stronger person because of this. And I'll be more, I'll be able to help that military service member and their family if by chance anybody else will ever go through something like this. because I'll be here to help them to fix it. There's something at the VA home loan evaluations department that needs fixing. Okay. And so the Lord is using me to get it fixed, to bring light to it. Okay. Because they're messing with the wrong one once again. And so therefore, believe me, this is going to get fixed.
Yeah, it will. But, you know, in the meantime, I do want you to take care of yourself, Queen. All right. As much as you know you're going through it, and I get it, it's just one of those things, because when this gets resolved, you're going to need to have the strength, okay, to carry on this conversation throughout the entire world. Yes. Because this is just not an isolated incident. I am most positive that others, you know, at different levels are dealing with this too. And so you're going to be the mouthpiece for those that cannot speak, or those that don't have the resources or the will, if you will, to actually go through this. And Glenroy says, a licensed broker, associate broker, or salesperson acting as a seller's agent should obtain a written residential property condition disclosure statement or a written residential property disclaimer.
Well, I guess they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They didn't do it. And I just felt like it was a setup. Okay. I'm thinking like maybe the realtor, because he had been working for us, you know, for, you know, like a year and a half, 2 years, you know, trying to find his waterfront property. And his wife, you know, wound up, you know, find out she had cancer, you know, and maybe he needed that $16,000 commission. And that's why he didn't tell us to have a percolation test done, you know, prior to buying it. Okay. He didn't tell us. However, Cedar Haven, because we were looking at this property around the corner within walking distance from Eagle Harbor, which is called Cedar Haven. And it was a piece of property. It was $150,000. And he had told us, he had put it in our contract that we needed a feasibility study and a percolation test. And I remember that, right? You know, after the fact, you know, but however, why would you tell us to do it on that property, but not tell us to do it on a more expensive property, you know, within walking distance? Okay. And so believe me, I filed with the Maryland Realtor Commission.
Yeah, okay. That's what Glenroy just said. He said, I did. The Maryland Real Estate Commission site.
I found, believe me, I found with everybody, and they came back because they really didn't talk to me. It was all like online, you know, based on my complaint. And then I guess they found the realtor. Okay. They found the realtor, Harry. And so Harry told them, I told them to have a percolation test, and they didn't. And so when the findings is what I got back saying, we didn't find any fault with Harry Jacobs, Taylor Realty, right? He said he told you guys to have a percolation test and you guys did not. He lied, but they never came back to allow, you know, us to respond back to saying, no, he lied. Because as a realtor, I would think something like this, if they told us to do something and we didn't do it, they should have put it in the contract. They should have put an addendum attached to our contract saying, I told Mr. and Mrs. Jones to have a percolation test done, and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
To cover his butt. And so, you know, the Maryland Realtor Commission came back. It's like, well, you can appeal it. So the lawyers that we had, Bird and Bird law attorney at the time, they were like, well, that's going to cost a whole lot of money. You know, these are people we paid the $10,000 retainer to and got no help. They're like, well, you know, that's going to cost a lot of money. And so I wouldn't advise you to go after that type of agency because it'd be a waste of your time. So when I tried to do it on my own, that the person, you know, that I was dealing with, he kept hanging up on me when I tried to say, hey, sir, how can I appeal this? And he just kept hanging up on me, and he wouldn't provide me with any assistance. And I'm like, Lord, you know, what is going on here? Why am I going through this? So, yes.
Well, Glenroy he's doing research on the back end. He is there. He said, based on the location of the property, there are certain tests and studies that have to be accomplished. And he said that should have been written. If it's not in writing, it didn't happen.
You know, the Prince George's health department, Prince George's permit, like should be having documents of all the properties, like, the surveys and stuff like that. Prince George's County didn't have any record of that house ever having a septic tank. Because when we were trying to find it, when we was trying to find it, I went to them. I said, hey, could you look on your microfilm, archives? And they said no, they have no record of it ever having a septic tank. Okay. And so, with that, even though it did have a septic tank, but it was just old and rusted and had a big old hole in it. It was leaking. Okay. But they had no record of it, which is really sad. So the house is on a short sale. It was $560. We reduced the price from $560 down to $490, trying to get rid of it. Okay, try to sell it. We asked New American Funding just recently for a deed in lieu of, just so happened not the foreclosure, but the short sale attorney that will represent us for the short sale. She was like, look, I can $350 an hour. I can contact New American Funding for you and try and get a deed in lieu of for you guys, a foreclosure. So that's what we're doing. That's where we are right now.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, because we can't do anything with the property. There's nothing we can do with it.
Yeah.
And we can't continue to, pay $8,000 a month for an uninhabitable lemon property that we can't live in.
Yeah.
We can't live in. We can't tear it down. We can't do anything with it.
Well, we are at the top of the hour, Norma. And I just want to say thank you for sharing your story with us, being vulnerable, going out of your way, if you will, to let other people know that this is happening to you and your husband.
Yes.
And, this is a fitting platform because this is almost like a veteran community. I mean, we got lots of veterans that watch, that I'm connected with, and someone in the community I know has probably dealt with or deals with these types of scenarios. So the reason for you to be here was this was not anything happenstance. This was divinely created by our God.
Hallelujah.
Who says, this is the opportunity. And I am grateful that I have this type of platform where my brothers and sisters in arms and those that we meet that support our community wholeheartedly can come and share and really just give the real deal. Like this is real talk. All right. This is something that is affecting your livelihood. Yeah. And, if a veteran is being affected by their livelihood, especially of one of your caliber, I just cannot sit here and just let this just go by without having you come here on the show and share. So y'all, Norma, like, what are your lasting words before we step off? Like, what would you leave for our audience?
I would leave for the audience that thank you for the opportunity, to get my and my husband's story out there, because we are in desperate need of help. We really are, in order to bring closure to this nightmare that we're going through, for going on 2 years. In November, it'll be 2 years. So if you know somebody that can help us, please help us. And thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, and God bless you too. Okay, because you are going to get really blessed. Okay. So I will want to thank our guest that came here live with us tonight, and that was Leslie, Beth, and Glenroy, all on the YouTube side of the house. So thank you so much, everyone, for being with us live. And those that were on Facebook and LinkedIn, if you were there and you left comments for whatever reason, we can't see those, but we will definitely go back and check in on them. And if anyone has any following questions or wants to contact Norma, Norma, where can they best find you at?
They can find me at Norma norma.ely, the number one, at gmail.com. My phone number is 202-222-5500. I chose the number 20 years ago when I returned from Iraq. They let me pick it, and I'm like, I want that one. It's easy.
Oh, wow. So, okay, they accommodated you because that is pretty easy to remember.
Yes.
So say the email and the phone number one more time.
Norma, NORMA.ELY, the number one, at gmail.com. 202-222-5500.
Okay. All right, y'all. So thank you so much for being with us on the Slay to Success talk show. My name is Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And tonight we had a conversation with Norma about her situation that she and her husband are going through with their home. So if you are someone knows of anyone to resolve and help out with this situation, we would be most pleased, okay, that you do. So in the meantime, I want you all to keep on slaying until you can't slay no more. And I will see you all next week, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love y'all. Bye-bye. Thank you, Norma.
Thank you.